So thank you everyone for joining today. We rescheduled another ETRO U session because we wanted to make sure that everybody at ETRO is familiar with our strategic goals and provide some updates on how we're progressing and where you can find updates when I'm not giving you a direct communication like this. We will continue with our communications. There will always be updates at our town halls and future ETRO U sessions. In fact, most of our ETRO U sessions are directly connected to strategic goals. So as far back as our authority matrix session that Dan hosted, that was one of the key milestones in our strategic goals, was having an updated authority matrix, weekly and monthly project reports. Most of this stuff is feeding directly from what we're working on strategically, but it's good to get a view of the entire process we're going through, what our progress is, why we're doing this, and how each of you can contribute. So that's what we're going to talk to today. It's a higher level, and hopefully we can make it clear how this links to the things that you are seeing come out in terms of new templates, standards, and training sessions. So why do we have strategic goals? What is ETRO's purpose? We've done some brainstorming around this as a management group, and we're going to present to you today what that new purpose is, as well as in the town hall that is scheduled for June. What our strategic goals are, these aren't anticipated to change specifically. Our goals of who ETRO are will stay the same. We will just adjust projects around them so that we can continue to make progress and continuous improvement across the board, and then how you can contribute. So anybody who's popped onto our website, and hopefully you got familiar with this before you came and joined ETRO, knows that we are more than just a regular construction company. But to make sure that we don't fall into the habits of just becoming a construction company and looking like everybody else, we need to have a strategic plan. So this is really why Mike and Dan brought me in, to be the person spearheading that strategic planning. It is not my brainchild, as it were. I'm the person doing the organization. The input into that strategy comes from everybody at ETRO, and especially our management team. But if you have ideas and something that you want to be put into our strategy that you think we're missing, every individual's voice in this organization is important. So you can speak to your manager, you can speak to me, you can speak to Mike, you can speak to Dan, you can speak to Allison, whoever it is that you feel is somebody that you trust with that information, your coach. That's awesome. We'll just make sure that we continue communicating as a group so that we can make sure that everybody's voice is heard and put into the strategic plan. So if we don't set our goals, we're going to leave our future up to chance. So rather than being a company that sets the market and sets sail for where we intend to go, we'll end up being essentially victims of market forces and not be able to necessarily get the types of people, projects, and quality of delivery that we really want as a company that makes us stand out different. So here it is. Why does ETRO exist? We build cool with great people. That's why. We have our people at the center, and we don't build the everyday stuff. There's going to be some projects that aren't as exciting as others, some that on the surface don't look exciting, but maybe they are logistically really cool. Maybe they're serving a niche purpose in the community. But ultimately, this is what we exist to do. So hopefully this resonates with everyone. You're going to start seeing it a lot more around ETRO. But we wanted to have one simple sentence that sums up why we exist, as opposed to why every other construction company exists. So our goals. To those of you who were able to join us at the town hall back in November, you'll be familiar with the ETRO Beehive, and I kind of went off on my own little tangent about why I love beehives and the systems of organization around them. And this is how we've just chosen to organize our goals graphically to show that everything interrelates. But we have done some updates based on some feedback and, again, some discussions amongst management about what we need to do to be successful at ETRO. So exceptional delivery, Hopefully this one is becoming something that is very familiar to everyone, that we want to do our projects better than everybody else that's out there. Save ourselves upfront work and effort, and hopefully get to the end easier. So this is one of the really key things where the ETRO way can come in, sharing learning lessons across the board, because we want to make sure that whatever project somebody from the public or a trade, a partner, a client, any of these people walks onto, they're getting the same experience on that project, regardless of who specifically individually is running it, because we all do things exceptionally. You're not going to have every little detail match, and our intention is not to micromanage to that level, because that is not creating exceptional delivery. We need to leave the space open for people to be creative, but the experience is exceptional overall. Standard, repeatable, lean process. Again, making things easy for people to follow and making it lean. So we have a lean committee. We've got some good traction going right now. We're looking at a lot of initiatives for how we make our processes leaner, how we save ourselves effort. Something as simple as having our samples stored in a cart that we can tote around, rather than having all these cardboard boxes of samples that you have to physically lift and maneuver to be able to find the right sample. Labeling things, finding them easily. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about here. So everybody can have a voice in being lean. If you see waste in your project, throw your hand up, say, I think we can do this better, and do it better with your project team. And if you're finding success, your project team, anybody on that team, feed it up through our lean committee, so that we can make sure that everybody benefits from what you've been trying in the field. Our field teams are really what's critical to this. We can create templates and Procore and Salus and Google Sheets of things, but if our field teams aren't benefiting from them, we're not truly lean. So we want to make sure our field teams are the ones who are really putting the input into our lean process. People first. So this one was not on our November town hall presentation. And that was a bit of a mistake, because people first has been a goal of ETRO since the founding. And it is a common theme about why and how and when we make decisions at ETRO. And it's our people internally first, but it's also people outside of ETRO. We want to infuse the industry with love. And I'd say that if you spoke to an average person on the street, the last thing they think of when they think of construction is warm and fuzzy. And that's gonna be the case, frankly, because we aren't the only construction company around there, but we do want to make it something where it's people are included, people are prioritized, and our projects are happening because our people have the agency and abilities to do what they need to do. Focusing on humans is the heart of our work. Innovation at every level. This one's on the bottom of the beehive, and this is because unless we have that sense of safety that comes from people first and having a good standard across the board with good exceptional projects, we're not really going to be able to innovate. Now, innovation isn't necessarily using a digital tool or doing something with technology. Innovation can be something as simple as making sure that you've placed everything in a manner that everybody can access. Lean can be very innovative. But we also want to think outside the box. What are the things that nobody's doing in construction yet? What are the things that we should be able to improve upon? Because, for instance, I'll give you one example I've seen in my career. We had a brewery, and the steel structure for the brewery was all HSS sections. So each of those were basically a tube, and because of the food standards, we were required to cap those off. So how do you cap off HSS of varieties of sizes in a steel building? Well, the expensive solution that we had to go to, because that was what the industry was able to do, was to weld on tabs of steel at the end of each of those HSSs. But an innovative solution that we were unable to execute on was to create plastic plugs that we could plug in and say 3D print all of the sizes of HSS steel that we had on the project and just come in and plug them. You'll see those things in straws. Sometimes you get something shipped, kind of like a tube, those plastic kind of plugs that come. Why couldn't we have done that for steel? It would have been much, much lower cost, much lower level of specialty labor involved. But the industry wasn't ready for it. We didn't have the equipment to do it. We didn't have a 3D printer, et cetera, et cetera. So it didn't happen. But steel cost $300,000. The cost of plastic would have been far, far less. So if we can think outside the box and deliver those kinds of solutions, that's where we want to be innovative. And it's at every level. So whatever you're doing on your project, it doesn't really matter if we're innovating something new, a smarter way of doing something or a simpler way of doing something. It's valuable, and we want to do that across the board. High level of quality. So just earlier this month, Jeff held his first quality session at ETRO U to introduce some of the tools and methods that we're going to be doing to track our quality of projects. And quality is up to every individual on a project. If you see something that's not looking right, ask a question. If you've been told something doesn't look right or will result in an issue down the line, do something about it. We don't want quality issues to pile up, especially when we're going quickly, we have an aggressive deadline, and we're worried about budgets. Yes, the project management triangle of budget, schedule, and quality is always going to have some tension between those three. But since COVID and the push on supply chain issues, the push from clients to do things in shorter timelines, quality has been one of the areas where industry-wide, frankly, we've seen a huge drop-off, and we don't want this to continue affecting ETRO's projects. So we all need to be accountable for our own work being high quality and holding others to the same standards. So our quality program may seem like it is adding some work to your plates if you're in the field, and that is not the intention at all. The intention is to ensure that these checks are being done and that we have a method of holding our trades accountable. We have long lived in a world where verbal conversations were just enough and people would do things, you could trust their word to get it done. And unfortunately, we've now seemed to move past that time. So we need to put things down on paper. We need to have those proofs and checks, because later on, when the client says you can't have an extra because of this, or the schedule overrun was your own problem, we're not recovering those costs anymore, and we don't have paperwork to prove that we've done all the quality checks along the way, and that is our trade issue as opposed to our own issue. So that's why it's important. And when it comes to non-project work, it's just as important that we do these things well. It's just as important that we give Marcelo everything he needs back when we demobilize from site, and needs to be in a condition that's usable. We need to check all of these things because quality needs to be synonymous with ETRO. And this one is also another change from the previous version of this diagram that you see. We're now saying industry partners instead of just client partners, because frankly, our clients aren't the most important people in this industry. It's everyone. It's our trades. It's the people that provide us with hourly labor. It's our architects, engineers, the authorities having jurisdiction. All of those relationships are very key to ETRO and being successful. If you have a good relationship with, say, a plan checker at one of the cities, the city of Vancouver, city of Burnaby, District of North Vancouver, and you're able to pick up the phone, and because that person knows you, they help you out, that is huge for ETRO. I've seen on past projects when it came to sprinkler permits, which are one of the most difficult things to get out of the city of Vancouver, somebody who had a good relationship with the guy in charge of handing out sprinkler permits was able to shave just 3 weeks off. It was still a 9-month process, but shaving 3 weeks off meant that we could keep our original mobilization date rather than pushing it out 3 weeks and then being late. So developing those relationships, maintaining relationships, and by the end of a project, even though you might have gotten all mad at each other and had to hold each other accountable. That's natural. You've done it in a way where at the end of the day, you still want to work together in the future. Because that's how we really want ETRO to leave everybody feeling that, yes, it was tough at times, we got stressed, but you know what, it was worth it because we did it all together as partners. And then at the center, so high performing teams hasn't gone anywhere. We've pushed it into the center with the culture of accountability, because frankly, without high performing teams, it's difficult to have accountability, and without accountability, you definitely can't have high performing teams. So again, I've mentioned it in a few of these areas, like high level of quality, exceptional delivery, having that accountability and talking to each other about, you know, what's maybe missing or what we could each do better. And that also goes for people like me. If there is something that I have promised you on your project, on your site, as a team, and I'm not delivering it to you, you need to tell me, because I am no better than anybody else at remembering everything. I do have systems and processes, and I absolutely do my best, but I'm imperfect, and you can come and call me out on anything, any time of day. So we need to be comfortable receiving that feedback. Don't take it personally. We all want to do better, but unless we are direct and clear in our communication, we're not going to get that feedback and make improvements. So follow up, make sure you do your own checks before you pass it on and tell somebody else you're done. That's one of the things that I had to learn early in my career. Whipping through something, thinking I was done and passing it off wasn't good enough. I needed to do my own check first, and you'll catch a lot of your own mistakes that way. And high performing teams, when everybody knows and trusts that the person next to them is doing their job and they've done it well, you just become a better group than any individual talent would necessarily lead you to believe. We've all seen those teams who go on Cinderella runs and their roster doesn't look like they're actually good enough as a sports team to get to the championship game, but somehow they did it. Those teams generally, yes, there's luck involved, but they're also outperforming their talent level because of a level of trust. People are filling the gaps, and you're able to cover for one another. If I'm good at something and you're not, I can help you out, and vice versa. So we want to be able to have that in all of our teams at ETRO, and we've certainly made great strides in that regard with the past few months that I've been here. I've seen a lot of people helping each other out, and it's great to see. And we want to continue that, as well as holding people accountable. So this is our new ETRO beehive of goals. At this point, I don't think we'll see much change, but if you guys think we are missing anything in our goals, reach out, send me a Slack, send me a text, call me, send me an email, or anybody else in your world, your coach, your manager, somebody you just trust in the company that you think I'm more comfortable with them talking to Karina than me. Absolutely, totally fine. Feedback is always welcome. The key to continuous improvement is that feedback loop. There's no set it and forget it if you're going to continuously get better. You have to keep pushing, and you have to hear from people about areas where there's more ability to improve. So that's why I'm really pushing on this communication piece. Help me help you. So how do you contribute? So I'm going to show you something that hopefully you have seen before, that this shouldn't be new to you. But we now have a strategic initiatives page on ETROnet. So when you are not seeing a presentation from me, you can always pop onto this page. So let me just switch my tab. So to find it in your ETRO toolbox, you go to ETROnet. From the home page where it says welcome to the team, the second last item is now strategic initiatives. So our goals here, not yet updated. Dara and I always intend to have communication with people before updating something like this, so that you have had some training and introduction to the information rather than having it show up without any context. So these are the versions of the goals that were rolled out in November. We will now update this with what I've just shown you, the version today. And you can, at any time, if you're wondering what these things are, you can come read a summary here. Now, this is key because this diagram of goals is now on our ETRO People Builder. And this is intentional because we don't want your goals to necessarily be misaligned with the company goals. There's going to be a lot more development of the People Builder program in the coming months. And it's really important that you're able to set your goals in alignment with ETRO's overall goals. And you'll see further discussion about that down the line. When you scroll down, you'll see our strategic projects. These have not changed. We're still working on the same things in terms of projects and an explanation of what these projects are. What is new is our progress bars. So we have a percentage complete for each of these projects. You can see that Jeff has been working really, really hard in quality. We've gotten up to 72% complete, which is huge. And by the end of this month, that will basically hit about 90%. It will never, in this year, reach 100% because we are continuing to identify gaps in our quality process. And again, with everything, when we're doing multiple versions, we may close this version of the quality plan once it reaches what we say is 100% complete, and then we'll open up a new plan for the next version. But we're doing really great on a lot of our strategic initiative projects. Another one I want to point out here is ETRO U. Probably not really going to get beyond 28, 29, maybe 30% progress. And that is simply because every time I check off another session that we've hosted, we've added at least one other thing where we're going to teach you. So unlike the rest of our projects where they do have an end date and a close and we'll create a new version if needed, ETRO U will be a continuous project, always happening with new topics and new presenters, and you're going to see this continually be about the same percentage. And then you'll have something like sustainability and ESG, where this is a project we're focused on, but we haven't made much progress, frankly. We've been focused on every other area a lot more than sustainability and ESG. And we're looking at how to make sure that we can gain ground in that world. Below that, you see some tasks. So I have a master strategic plan project, as it were, that puts everything together, looks at the deadlines and milestones and resourcing and who's doing what, so that we can kind of stagger things and not overload us at any given time. And this is now reporting directly out from that on what we've done in the past month. So the past 4 weeks, what have you seen? So in the ETRO way, you may have not received a communication for these because there's quite a lengthy process to make sure we've updated the ETRO way completely before it gets to you. But we've got our quality sections in there now. We've started setting up the project management tool I use called Asana for pre-construction. Quality, risk, and closeout, you see the quality stuff. This is where most of this progress has happened. And then at the very bottom of this is one more tracker. We had set out at an ETRO U session held in January that we wanted to have all of our people builders completed by February 28th. So there has been a lot of hard work gone into this, and we thank you for coaches who've been chasing up their players and players who've been chasing up their coaches. If we add in the people who are on leave with the people who have completed, we are over 50%, but there's still a good chunk of people who haven't yet completed their people builder. So if there is something holding you back from doing it, if you feel like, well, my goals are just to have a job that puts a roof over my head, that's okay. We still want to have these conversations happen. You don't have to have things on your people builder like, I want to become the Prime Minister of Canada. That's not necessarily the purpose. It's just to make sure that, you know, we have a handle on what all of our people in the organization want to do. And if you're completely happy in your role, that feedback is very, very helpful as well. but there's certain things we need to do to continue making you happy or keep you happy. And if we don't have these conversations, we can't necessarily do them. So don't think of this as something like I need to have some lofty goals set out to even bother the people builder. No, it's helping ETRO to make sure that we hit our corporate goals and also we keep our people happy. So this is the strategic initiative site. You can come on here at any given day. It is all connected to the systems in the background for these progress trackers, and they update. You can scroll up and down, and this information is here to give you as much knowledge as you may desire about what we're doing. Okay, so back to my presentation. That's where you can find the progress tracker as well and get involved. So hopefully you feel invested in the goals and projects that we're doing. As I've said multiple times, please provide feedback, add suggestions, anything you think that is going well in your project that you'd like to be highlighted, or you think, you know what, I don't know anybody else doing this, you should know about it. Please put up your hand, and we're very happy to highlight your work. All of these things are valuable, and really the message for everybody here on the call today is that you're an important part of the strategic planning as well. So let us know how you think you're doing and how you think we're doing and what we can do better. That's everything for today. I will now open it up to questions. Go ahead, Loy.
Just wonder if we have any upcoming seminar for team building training. Because in order for us to get to high performance team, maybe we start with something. What's the team going to look like? What's the team building like? And how do we get to high performance team? Do we have anything like that lined up, Karina?
Yes, we do. We have somebody contracted to first provide us with leadership training. So everybody who manages 3 people or more basically will be given management leadership training, and included in there is things like, you know, creating a high performance team. So that Dan and I are just currently figuring out the exact dates. I think we have the attendees sorted out, and that is coming very soon. The only holdup there is I need to get some funding approved from the Government of Canada, and as soon as that approval comes through, we can start the sessions.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Allison.
Hi, Karina. My question is just, it kind of ties into, I guess, the managerial training, but you mentioned that in order to create high-performing teams, you're also kind of trying to pair people up that might help complement each other. So I'm just curious what ETRO is currently doing to kind of pair people up and create that dynamic for an upcoming project, or is it primarily just based on like who's available at that time?
No, Dan could probably speak to this mostly. Right now, it's been a very, I'll say, gut feel process, knowing the people going on to projects and deliberately pairing people up. So if you've got a ton of field experience and you're a junior PM, we might get paired up that way on teams. But also looking at, there's this theory of leadership called Strengths Finder, and it has 32 different strengths that people basically can get divided up into, and actually looking at what people are naturally strong at doing, and pairing them up with people who then have complementary strengths. That's a bit further out in terms of us actually doing that evaluation, but knowing the people as well as we do so far, at least it's been working well with this intuitive pairing. And if you have feedback on that, absolutely give it, but it has been an intuitive process so far.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Brad, go ahead.
All the progress updates on your strategic initiatives section on ETRO.net, are these all live?
Yes.
Like, wait, okay.
Yeah. Everything is directly connected and it's live to the project management platform I use, which is called Asana.
It is all done through Tableau.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
like it.
We do have an actual co-op student who's a data analyst starting May 5th. He'll be joining us. I am very rudimentary at Tableau. Marcelo is certainly much more of an expert than I am, but also overloaded. So we'll have more of this kind of Tableau visualization happening for you guys this summer. But this is kind of an introduction to what it looks like.
Is it easy to use? Is it relatively easy to use?
Relatively, yes. The most difficult part of Tableau is the most difficult part of every data viz, which is loading and cleaning the data. So yeah, basically for me with the Asana stuff, because I'm fully in control of every piece of data in Asana, it's quite easy for me to do. But more helpful information like project financials being in CMIC requires much more knowledge than I personally have, and it's going to be a team effort with Marcelo and our data analyst to roll that out.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you everyone for joining. Enjoy your balance of your lunchtime, and if anybody else has anybody joining with them like Luca does, shoot me a note so that I have an accurate count of who was able to join. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.